All right, it says go live. So I'm assuming everybody on the other end of the screen is now tuning in. Thank you all for joining us and welcome to episode 2 of the Level Up Your Wealth podcast, proudly sponsored by the gamers at Tomes Financial. I'm one of your hosts, Marcus Howard. Also joined by Mario Payne and Mathew. Is it Georghiou?
Georghiou is the easy way I pronounce it. That's easy for English speakers.
Excellent, excellent. Mario, please introduce yourself for those who may have missed our first episode 2 weeks ago. And then Matthew, certainly want you to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, so Mario Payne, I'm a certified financial planner in beautiful Jacksonville, Florida. I've been practicing for 16 years, been a certified financial planner for 11 years. We have a pretty nice sized practice, one of the largest African American owned practices in America from an investment standpoint. So just happy to be a gamer and talk finances at the same time. So it's like the best of both worlds.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. And then Matthew, you're joining us from Canada. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. Nova Scotia, Canada, on the east coast of Canada. If you go right up Maine, you'll eventually hit us. That's right.
Okay.
But you're originally from Cyprus, is what you said earlier?
Originally from Cyprus. My family moved to Canada when I was very young, so I grew up here, but do a lot of my business in the United States and other countries.
That's awesome. Now, so economy wise, because I just came from Greece. We did almost 2 weeks in Greece. I've been in Europe before, but first time in Greece. As a business owner, business that is conducted here compared to overseas, you think we work a little bit too much, not enough? What do you think the working environment is for Americans compared to Europeans?
That's a good question. Well, I was too young to actually work when I was living overseas. Although interestingly, I actually have 3 citizenships. I'm a citizen of Cyprus. I have UK citizenship and I have Canadian citizenship, although I spent most of my life in Canada. But doing business from Canada with other countries, you definitely see some differences. You definitely see, a lot more kind of sales hustle maybe in the Middle East.
Okay.
Obviously, you see that in the United States as well. Canada tends to be a little bit more conservative. The way I compare Canada and the United States is in Canada, we tend to look at the downside of an opportunity rather than the upside. And the United States is the opposite. We look at the upside rather than the downside. There's other, in the UK, I think they tend to be a little bit more reserved and not as aggressive on the sales side. So I think all sorts of really interesting cultural differences.
Okay. So us Americans a little bit more risk on, and more Canadians are more risk averse. It sounds
You
like.
got it. You got it. That's right.
So we kind of mirror that from a gaming standpoint, right? So as a gamer, going through different games, you think it's better to kind of be a little bit more riskier and take chances, or you think it's better to kind of be conservative and kind of let the cards fall where they may, per se?
I don't know if it's a better thing. I think it's a personal choice. How people play games, and the great thing about games is you're going to fail whether you take it easy or you're aggressive. You're going to fail, which is the opposite of school, right? School teaches us to fear failure, which is totally wrong because in the real world, whether it's just living our lives or business or whatever it is, we're failing all the time. I tell people I failed literally thousands of times over the years that I've been in business, right? But I call them micro failures.
Mhm.
And the idea is to learn from those micro failures, and hopefully they don't turn into a catastrophic failure, which happens as well, right? We've all seen that and probably experienced a little bit of it. But yeah, in terms of going through games, I think it really depends on the individual, and that's the great thing about games is they let you kind of choose your path, right? You can also choose different settings. I play FIFA a lot with my son, and we can
Mm.
adjust the settings based on our level of experience. So that's games are amazing for that.
Oh, so we talk about soccer. So what's your team?
Oh, you know what? I actually don't watch any professional soccer, if you can believe it. I'm actually a basketball is my, I actually went to college on a basketball scholarship. So basketball is my main sport. Although I did actually play soccer in college as well for a year,
Yeah,
but basketball is my thing. And of course, I'm in Canada. So, a default has to be the Raptors.
yeah, of
Uh,
course, yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
I never had the hand-eye coordination for sports.
no?
I had a mean growth spurt when I was like ninth or 10th grade. So, I stuck to, I was actually in the band,
Oh,
uh,
yes.
played tuba and marked sousaphone, but, technology and video games were for me, and I seem to have done well.
Yes, I would take that growth spurt because I'm only like 5'8", so I would use to send some of that my way.
Yeah.
It's funny, you people, whenever they see me in person, like, I didn't realize you were that tall. And I was looking back at the video from episode 1, and my kids are playing in my chair, so it was like set all the way
Oh
down.
yes.
And so when people see me, in person after they see me on the video chat, they're like, Marcus, why are you 6.5 feet tall? Like, I've always been 6.5 feet tall.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's fun. That's funny. All you soccer fans, I'm a Liverpool fan, so you guys will never walk alone. So I'm a huge Liverpool supporter. But let's talk about the game. I know we wanted to dive in. So my background is that I have my own investment firm, but I actually have a investment app as well called Let Bob. It's on the Google Play Store, it's on the Apple Store. And one of the good things about our app is that we try to help from an investment standpoint through financial literacy. So the thought process is, as you pick a stock, that stock might not be the best stock right now. So we educate you through information, through push notifications about that stock. And on our end, we actually buy that stock on your behalf when it's the best time to buy. Typically with investors, they usually buy at the wrong time, right? They buy when it's high and then sell when it's low, but it's the opposite. But we sometimes think with our hearts, not with our minds when we invest, when it should be the opposite. So huge when it comes to financial literacy. So definitely excited about the game. So if I can share my screen, Marcus, let me share my screen and let
Please
me
do
hop
that. Please do
in.
that. And while you're doing that, if you're joining us live, please let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. If you got a favorite soccer team or football team, let us know in the chat, or let us know. Hit the like button or the celebration, so we know who's there. We appreciate your support. We want to give you a shout out, so please do that. And we're excited to share this game.
All right. So let's see here. All right. So
And also, if you have
go.
any questions as I'm loading this up, feel free to send those in the chat as well. If you want to save those for later, we can do that too.
So Go Venture City. So Matthew, what made you come up with the name Go Venture City?
Well, the brand is Go Venture, and in fact, when I first started designing educational games, and the first product was a business simulation, it was way back in the late '90s. And in a proposal I was writing to, I think, raise some money, I just had to come up with a name, and I just chose Go Venture. It was only supposed to be temporary, but
Okay.
then once we finished the product, I started thinking, you know what, this is a pretty good name for a business simulation. So I kept Go Venture. The city is just what you're looking at right there, but
Okay.
the brand is Go Venture.
I think that's the same thing that happened with the Xbox, right? Xbox was like a placeholder name and it stuck.
Ah, that would make sense. Yeah, good name though.
Yeah. I like this. So we have a city vibe, got the skyscrapers, and we got like a more residential subdivision side. So Matthew, you more of a city person or more a subdivision person?
Well, I live in a small, tiny city, although I have lived in larger cities as well. I tend to like a little bit larger city myself. Now, what you're looking at there is you're about to start a lemonade stand. So it's only showing you a small neighborhood. When you
Okay.
level up to the next level of business, it's actually going to open up into a larger city. And then eventually you're going to be in a very big city. So this is more of a neighborhood style experience right now.
Okay. All right. So I got $100 in savings now. With inflation, $100 might not get me so far, Matthew.
You
But
better get started before the inflation reduces it any further.
all right. So let's see. So Tone, I call it Tone's Financial, name of my firm. All right.
You're selling lemonade, remember? You're selling lemonade.
Okay. 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 All right. Tone's Financial Lemon. Okay. We turn lemons to lemonade. All right.
There you
So
go. Yeah, that would be a great name for a financial services business.
okay. All right. So Monday, day one, year one. All right. $100. All right. Open business. Now, 84, 84% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. I hope I'm not one of those, but let's see.
Yeah. Well, you got to click the next button to
Okay.
follow the tutorial a little bit first.
All
So
right.
it's just explaining some of the interface for you. Is a little bit of a walkthrough tutorial.
Okay. I like this. It kind of gives, because some games you just kind of start playing it, but I like this because it actually kind of gives you direction.
Yes. And now here's something important here. It's telling you a little bit about consumer profiles, right? A big aspect of running a successful business is understanding your customers. And there's different parts of the neighborhood. Eventually, once you're successful, you'll be able to run multiple lemonade stands in different parts of the neighborhood. But in this neighborhood, I think, is that Apple Street? I can't read the screen very well. Are you on Apple or
Yeah, so
Peach?
we have Peach Street, average price and quality expectations. Apple Avenue, I love me some Apple stock, by the way. Willing to pay more for a high quality product, or Orange Lane, which is you prefer low prices. All right, okay, I get that. I get that. Um, with the lemonade stand business, you will set up a kiosk to make and sell lemonade to people in the neighborhood. All right, so my kiosk. Um, let's go in the middle. Good choice. Oh my gosh, the cost is $50. Oh,
$50. That's right.
just
Nothing's
like
cheap
that.
around here. Well,
Oh God.
look at what John's saying in the message, in the notes, in the comments there. He's saying it's $100 for lemonade and a sandwich in California.
Oh,
So you're doing all right.
inflation, inflation, inflation. Wow. Okay. All right. So next you have to buy ingredients. Okay. To make lemonade, you need water, lemons, and sugar in cups. You mix it together to sell cups. All right. All right, so you can buy everything. So Matthew, when you design this game, for what ages? So what's the youngest individual? And of course, any age, of course, but what's the youngest individual you think can play this?
So I had my niece playing it the other day, and I think she's in grade 2. So that would be about 7, 8 years old.
Okay.
And so we have elementary schools using it. But this product, because of the way it's designed, and when we level up and see the more complex businesses, it's actually used in universities. It's used in a few major banks actually use it for empathy training for their frontline employees. There are
Hmm.
employees who, deal with business owners, but their employees themselves may not have business experience, so it's difficult for them to have meaningful conversations with their customers. So they're using our product as part of that training experience. Now, the lemonade stand for an adult serves more as a simple tutorial to kind of get you warmed up to things. And again,
Okay.
once you level up to the more advanced businesses, you'll see how it applies.
All right. So I just I was a bargain shopper right there. So now $17. Oh my God. Oh, do you really want to be a business owner? All right.
I think that was really cool at the very beginning when he picked his lemonade stand. You didn't show the price until after he made the selection.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the key components of business is entrepreneurship, right? You can't plan for everything.
Right.
Sometimes you have to pivot right in the moment. So thank you for making that reality part of this experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much a test experience. You have to experiment with different things to see what's going to work.
Have our inventory. All right. Now here's the thing. Now I like my lemonade sweet. So we're gonna do I
Oh,
drag this over or
click the next button one more time. Now you can adjust the recipe.
okay.
Now, Mario, watch as you adjust the recipe. You see the lemon, sugar, cups, and water that's above? That's your cost of goods, right? That's what it takes to make the lemonade. So as you make a sweeter lemonade, it requires more lemons and sugar,
Mm,
which increases your cost of making the lemonade.
yeah.
So
So
what's our lesson there?
in the business community, we call this a profit margin, right?
That's right.
So yeah. So of course, if I want it my way, in the words of Usher, sweet and lemony, $1. So basically $2 compared to I want it sour, uh, bad, basically 85 cents. But I'm gonna go luxury. I like like my luxury. It's a
You're,
civilization, not real life. So we're gonna go luxury.
so
And
you're not a middle of the road guy. You're going top of the line, huh?
nah, no, going for the gusto. Now I don't invest people's money like this, though. Let's make it clear.
That's a
We,
good
you
that's a
know,
good side note.
but yeah. All right. So we hit okay. Uh, all right. So I hit okay, right?
Oh, actually, you know what? I just realized because you're in the tutorial phase, it's actually forcing you to choose, I think the second level, the one more level down. Yeah, it's forcing you to choose that.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because it's a tutorial phase. Yeah.
Okay. And you can see, and this is awesome because you're actually learning about business before you're actually applying it. So you're
Right.
actually, because a lot of times we think about business, we want to do Facebook ads, we want to do marketing and things of that nature. But it's so many steps you have to do to even get to that point, from a monetary standpoint, from a planning standpoint. Like it kind of gives us the fundamental of businesses before we have the cool stuff like doing ads and things of that nature. So this is pretty cool. You can see
Exactly.
your
Yeah.
recipe. All right. Unhappy customers may tell their friends not to buy. When it comes to business, you guys, I can attest. Building my investment firm, I would say for every 10 clients we bring in, 9 is through referrals. So if we have unhappy clients, bad news travels very, very fast.
Right.
Good news, it travels, but bad news travels very fast. You got unhappy customers, the world's going to know quicker than if they were happy.
You got that
Okay.
right. Now it's telling you to set your
Oh,
price.
price. All right. So what I'm gonna do here? So it cost me $1 to basically make everything, right? Am I
Buck
right?
20.
Okay.
Yep.
$1.20, right? So profit margin. So the more money that we make, minus the expenses, the higher our margin is, right? So, let's let me select.
It's
Okay.
forcing you to select $2 for the tutorial part. And of course, the challenge with pricing is a lower price attracts more customers.
Correct.
Higher price is more profitable, but there is a point in which you have diminishing returns. As your price goes up, many fewer people will buy, and then you've got to consider your profitability impact.
All right. So we'll kind of go through this.
Had a
All right.
similar experience when I was working in college, right? My brother and I would host gatherings at our house, and we would always we would charge occasionally for some of those gatherings, and so we would create drink opportunities,
Yes.
right? We had to go source those required materials,
Yes.
right? And create those drinks, and we would have a price, a cost of goods to deliver that, right? And then we would charge at the door, hoping that we would had estimated the amount of consumption per guest,
Wow.
and we ended up packing out the house, but never really making enough. We barely made enough to cover our expenses for the raw goods,
Yes.
but we never also accounted for our time
Mhm.
because we stayed at a place where we had to clean up the gatherings right before the next morning.
Yes.
We would be up hours into that doing that. There's a fixed price that you have to account for in your time.
Got it.
So it's great that you're including all this as well, right? We
Exactly.
didn't, and if I had something like this, maybe we should have run a couple of simulations with digital drinks before we had real
You're
drinks.
right. Yeah, you were doing hard lemonade essentially right there, the hard lemonade stuff.
Spike
uh,
eliminate, right? All right.
exactly.
So,
So Marcus,
open
before you
space.
click that button, as soon as you click that button, you're going to see customers coming to your lemonade stand. You have to actually mix your lemonade. So once you click that button, in the lower left corner, you see where your lemonade stand is. There's going to be a plus button that's going to appear, and you're going to have to actually click that to mix your lemonade. Okay?
All right. So that makes sure it's spiked,
That's right.
All
Spike the
right.
punch.
So for business. Here
All
we go.
right, go ahead and mix her up.
Oh, continue. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Now watch those little emoticons is your customer satisfaction, and there's
Okay.
little smaller icons next to it. Oh, you've already run out of inventory. As
Oh, that's
you've mixed
good.
all of your lemonade. You've run out
That quick.
that quick. We that's on purpose in the tutorial because we want you to experience that consequence right away
Wow. Okay.
and actually feel the the disappointment of disappointing your customers.
Wait. Oh my gosh. Oh no. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna
You're
do?
losing.
So.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, there's your end of your day. So how did you do?
All right. So 10 customers served, 14 customers lost. Not good. 10 sold. $20 of revenue, $12 of cost of goods, $8 gross profit. Now, a 40% profit margin is not bad, though, right? I mean, so,
Not
let's
bad.
say anything over 25% profit margin is good. So, I mean, yes, I have unhappy customers, but I still have a pretty good profit margin. So, I would say first day, not bad. I learned a valuable lesson to have more inventory, of course, but okay, so damage or spoil. So water. How can you spoil water? I think water is fruitless,
You
right? How can you
spill
spoil
it.
that?
You spill it,
Oh,
right?
I spilled it. Okay, I
Yeah.
spilled it.
So
Okay, all right.
the lesson here, Marcus, on Mario on the right hand side there is if you order too much inventory and you
Mm,
hold too much inventory, there's a consequence to that as well, right?
yes.
So there's a consequence of not having enough because you miss sales, just like what happened to you there. But there's also a consequence of having too much. Business is always a compromise. There's always a positive and always a negative, and you got to figure out what that balance is for your business.
It's interesting you say that because that's happening right now with a company that we all know called Target. Target, because of COVID, just kind of flooded themselves with inventory, and they just can't get rid of it. So a lot of the things from a pricing standpoint, they had to decrease their prices. So now their profit margin is not as high than what they expected. We had expectations or stock expectations that analysts have, and they just while the market's going up, their competitors like Walmart and Amazon are going up, but their stock is going down for that reason because they have too much inventory. So that's a real world example of a, multi-billion-dollar company that has a lot of money but did the wrong thing from an inventory standpoint. So this is
I think I heard that similar things happening with Airbnb right now, right? They had too much real estate inventory.
Yeah. Airbnb is also having some problems with the hotel lobby. The hotel lobby is basically forcing cities like Austin to basically ban Airbnbs, or you can only Airbnb over a 30-day time period, 14 out of 30 days, which is kind of hurting the Airbnb market. So yeah, that's hurting Airbnb. Okay. So
And John is telling us the same thing that Toys R Us did.
Inventory.
I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. Oh man. Oh boy. For all those traders in the world who could have shorted Toys R Us back in the mid 2000s before it went down and bankrupt, they would have been very, very wealthy right now. Them and KB Toys. This is good though. This definitely gives us. So in creating the game, if you kind of have two bullet points on what you want individuals to take away from playing the game, engaging in the game, and then learning, what would those two bullet points be?
Well, it's really the experience of running a business, because there is no substitute to experience. You can talk about business all day. The concepts of business are not rocket science. They're not difficult to understand, but it's the actual practice, putting them into practice and trying to find that balance. So, I tell people, if you want to learn business, you got two options. You either can go out and run a business. We can give you $100,000, go out and run a business. But how long is it going to take you to experience all the things you need to experience? Is it going to take, 2 years, 5 years? Or you can play simulation, and in a matter of hours, you could experience, the same things you would. In fact, we can even make you experience more things that otherwise you would never encounter, even in the real world of business. So, to boil it down, it's really about there's no substitute experience with experience, and playing a simulation is the best way to get that.
Now, how would a person go about, purchasing this? So where would they be leading? Of course, we see URL playgoventure.com. I think it's trial though, so the person wants to really engage in this and really learn how to run the business before they go through the process of spending money into a
Yes.
business. How would be the process to purchase this game?
So normally we would work through trainers and educators, so schools, universities, companies. So unless you were in a school that used our product or a company that used our product, you wouldn't normally have access to it. But recently, we've started creating courses around our programs that individual learners can purchase. So we have some of our courses on goventurecourses.com. Goventurecourses.com is where you can access our various courses, where you can access our simulations and so on. Unless you're a teacher, if you're a teacher, an educator, or corporate trainer, then you would go to goventure.net, which is the website specifically for that.
Okay, and so for these courses, how long? How many courses is it? Is it 10 courses in one? Is it kind of a long drawn out process? How quick do you think a person can kind of get through the courses?
So about a dozen different courses. One course we have is it's called the 1 Hour Entrepreneur, where we actually teach you entrepreneurship in literally 1 hour, and it's
Mm,
free. I also have a course, hugely popular accounting course, where I teach you accounting in 29 minutes. It's only 29 minutes. There's some bonus content in there as well, and that's free as well. But then if you get into the courses where you actually play the simulation yourself, then
mhm.
you could play the simulation for dozens of hours. It's totally up to you how much you want to play. Now, the course does have you progress through certain levels, and we haven't looked at the really comprehensive levels where you're running businesses like McDonald's and Starbucks, and and automotive repair shops and beauty salons and barber shops and so on.
Wow.
But you could play it for dozens of hours. And then our most premium experience is called Business XP. So, you guys know university has become unaffordable for so many people. The quality of education. I mean, what other industries does your price go up 1,000% and the quality stay the same or go down, right? Where else can you do that? So despite the fact that we work with thousands of educators around the world, we feel there's a need to provide people with a career in business without the 4 years of time and all that money. So we've launched a program called Business XP. It's the world's first and only fully game-based experience to gaining and starting a career in business. So it's almost like an alternative to business school, but at a fraction of the price. And we have about a dozen simulations, including personal finance simulations, investing simulations, so on, that you go through. So that's more of our premium offering that you would take maybe 50 or 100 hours to complete.
Okay. And we're just gonna get to that a little bit later. Last question becomes this before we kind of take it off the screen. So you talk about the different businesses, a hair salon, a beauty shop, a McDonald's. Can a person, after they get the course, can they kind of customize and just kind of go directly to that type of business, or do they have to go through the full civilization and then kind of stumble upon that business once they advance in the game?
They can go directly to that business, but we normally want them to progress, just like real video games. You don't normally, hit the boss level until you've kind of got your skills up, right? So usually you'll play lemonade stand for maybe an hour, just as a nice tutorial of fundamentals of business. Then you move up to kiosk, play that for a couple of hours, and then you would move up to that level. We even have a global business game that's free to play that you would actually play for months at a time. But it's really up to you how you want to progress and if you want to play longer in each of the experiences.
Okay. Now, before we get off the screen, anything else that you want to talk about the game or that on the screen that we see now?
No, I think you did a pretty good job, Mario. I think I might invest in you.
Okay. Okay. Hey, a 40% profit margin. I will take that any day of the week. All right, so next.
That's excellent. Thanks for that opportunity to preview that, Matthew. And I want to make sure that we provide an opportunity for everyone who's joining us to ask questions. So just gonna again, and anyone who asks questions is eligible for winning a digital copy of Mario's book. And I'm actually throwing in a digital copy of Innovate Gaming and Esports, right?
Nice.
You've all seen that. Thank you for your support of that book. So those are available for those. We want this to be a conversation. We want you to learn. You get free advice here. So please share those questions in the comments. And also, as you see here at the bottom, we got this scrolling marquee. Again, this podcast is proudly sponsored by Tomes Financial that Mario owns. He's got a new gaming landing page. So if you go to bit.ly/levelupyourwealth, you can get directly to that page. You can also go to his website, tomesfinancial.com, TOMSFINANCIAL.com. You'll see a link at the top navigation that says level up your wealth. So want to make sure we get a chance to answer some questions. Also want to shout out those who are joining. Thank you, Timo, for joining. John, appreciate that question and understanding the importance of inventory. Corey, man, it's been some years. Corey and I go way back. We connected. We were working as part of the guerrilla marketing campaign crew for Damon John from Shark Tank. So I've known him a number of years. He's doing very well on LinkedIn with his various businesses. Tony, appreciate you. Black Point Battle Royale. He's out of Texas. Definitely want to learn more about what he's doing. So again, everyone, thank you for your support. Noah, everyone else, please put some questions here in the comments, and we'll make sure we'll get some of those answers before we move on.
That's awesome. So ask a question, kind of a question, because you are a entrepreneur, engineer, innovator, and a writer. So what's the tough hat you have to wear between the four of those?
Toughest hat is selling. Selling. Our simulations, our advanced simulations are so complex. It takes so much expertise and time to build, coding, everything, like security, privacy, all these things we deal with. But at the end of the day, you still got to sell something. And selling an educational product, I've been doing this for 25 years in an industry that is so slow to change, so reluctant to change. That's been the biggest grind, selling.
Okay. We did have a question from Timo. Timo asked, "How do today's simulation, if I could, trainers keep track of record? So, how do they kind of keep, track of the record in simulation?"
So I think Timo may be asking about assessment, perhaps, in terms of how we assess performance. You think so? If that's the case, the simulations that we design do a very holistic assessment of your performance. So the lemonade stand being very simple, it only assesses you on things like sales and profit margin. But when you get to the more advanced businesses, we do both assessment on about 15 different metrics. So we do financial metrics like sales, revenue, profit margin, but then we look at things like your market share, your customer satisfaction. We look at your employees, so you can hire employees, and we score you on your turnover rate, your employee productivity, your employee reliability in terms of our people showing up and working on time. We even have health, where the simulation records how much time you're working, and if you're working too many hours per week, your health actually gets reduced. So it's a very holistic measurement, and it's all automated, which is the other amazing thing about simulation, unlike traditional learning. When you're doing a quiz or writing an essay, it's really not capturing any skills whatsoever. All it's doing is testing your ability to pass a test, right?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I spent 6 years studying engineering and math, and I skipped all my classes. 90% of my classes I didn't go to, because I used to say, look, I already know how to read, yet my professors are reading my textbook to me in my class. So I would just game the system. I would do my assignments, I would do my tests, and I would just find the shortest route to getting the answer right, just so I could pass, right? And I passed, and I ended up working with IBM, and I got a great job at the time. But the experience was terrible. It was just a terrible academic experience. I didn't enjoy it at all. And I think simulation can actually do more real life skill assessment for us.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of value there, especially with the rise of AI, right? With AI now, like a mill, right, churning out papers.
That's right.
Kind of devaluing essay assignments. And if you don't have that for a lot of the critical thinking, then how do you assess whether someone's learned something? Experiential seems like really one of the only alternatives. And it seems like what you've built allows you to do that in spades.
That's right. There's no cheating. I mean, you have to do the work, and you can't set it and forget it. You actually have to do the work, and you have to succeed and show that success over time. It all comes down to experiential learning, just like you're saying, Marcus. Nothing is better than experiential learning. Whether it's a game or simulation, it doesn't have to be a game or simulation. You can do a virtual world, you can do a field trip, but it has to be experiential. It has to be problem-based, so you're solving a problem, trying to improve something, which is, again, very different than our traditional curriculum that we see over the many decades that we've been in schools.
We've got a couple other folks joining us. Preston, thank you for joining us. He's an AI engineer, so I'm sure that segment was really important to him. Dedrin Sneed's up in Atlanta, which is I'm originally from Georgia. He does a lot of STEAM education. He's a futurist. Mathew Hickson, well known in the esports ecosystem. Adam, I believe, is also in Canada. And then Noah Hughes, I think, also does financial planning. He's in that wealth management space as well. So thank you all for joining. And as Noah said, games and finance is basically his wheelhouse.
Yeah, awesome. So another question though. So what kind of real world challenges are thrown into the game? Pandemics, recessions, droughts, tornadoes, natural disasters. Do you have those types of events that's built into the game?
So in some of our simulations, we don't on purpose. Some we do. Some simulations, we actually allow the instructor or the facilitator trainer to create an event that impacts things like market share or shipping costs and that kind of thing. And the facilitator can dream up any event they want and have it apply to the simulation. In the simulation you and I were just playing right now, we actually don't do events, because when you get to the more comprehensive level of the business, of the McDonald's and the barbershops and so on, there are so many challenges already that throwing another variable in the mix, we think, actually negatively impacts the learning experience. In fact, with that product too, it's not a head-to-head multiplayer experience on purpose. We have head-to-head multiplayer experience. We have massively multiplayer experiences, but there are certain experiences that we feel that we need to reduce the variables, because there's already a lot of competing variables that the that the learner has to understand, right? And we'll even accelerate and exaggerate consequences because, if there's a consequence and it's so nuanced that you don't even see it, then you're not going to learn from it, right? So we have to exaggerate those things, accelerate those things.
Exaggeration. Good and bad exaggeration, right? So John, another question. So John asked, what about dealing with Gen Z? Oh, Gen Z is of the world. The millennials, not Gen X, the Gen Zs, old culture Gen Z. I don't know what happened from Gen X to Gen Z, but whatever. So what about dealing with the Gen Z worker who wants more work from home? Wants to work from home more, of course. Are those scenarios in the game?
We actually haven't dealt with that in our simulation. That seems to be more of a kind of a cultural thing, and it depends on the business. So, I mean, we at the end of the day, you can simulate anything. The question becomes, does it make sense to simulate in a particular learning experience? And in what we've been designing, that hasn't really been something we would build in.
Have you seen higher demand for your product in the traditional education space, or more so from businesses trying to use it for personnel development?
I'm not sure I'd say either one in terms of is one stronger than the other. They're both markets are so different. The education market is very much down to the individual teacher to determine what they want to do in their classroom, if it's a K to 12 or a university professor. So it's not necessarily a kind of a broader thing. On the corporate side, there's so much red tape. We work with some major banks where it literally takes 2 years to do a pilot before they decide to adopt something. And so it's hard to see speed in those areas. Yeah.
And so as the questions keep on coming, and thank you guys, it's a great question. So Timo had a question, right? So we wanted to know, if you did the simulator, is it like an degree? Is it a certification? Like what type of credit is given for completing the sim or the game, as it's uh so much stuff that has to go into it from our standpoint. So what type of certifications are given if the game is completed?
Right. So if you're taking a course or at a university that uses our simulation, you're going to get whatever credential that particular institution is going to give you. If you do
Okay.
it directly with us, we provide a certificate. Whether it's a short course, you get a certificate. If it's our Business XP, our premium training, we provide what's called a certificate in leadership.
Okay.
And so it's not the equivalent of of accredited diploma or degree. Now, interestingly enough, when we were launching Business XP and designing it, I had considered actually creating a college, which I can do relatively easily,
Mhm.
and actually grant a full diploma like you would get from any other institution. But here's the problem, and I know Marcus, you talk about this as well sometimes, and that's the accreditation process is broken, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's broken. So when I was
Yeah.
talking to the people who do these accreditations, they were saying, well, traditionally, when we've accredited other colleges to do a business degree or diploma, the program has to be 1,000, 2,000 curriculum hours, right? Which will take you about 2 years to complete. And with our simulations, I can literally teach you 10 times faster.
Mm,
I can create 1,000, 2,000 hours of curriculum time, no problem. We create content all day long, but I'm just wasting your time, right? And in our world today, who wants our time to be wasted? Time is money. We want to get earning as soon as possible. So if I can teach you at a fraction of the time, which means I can also charge you a fraction of the cost too, right?
yeah.
Why would I want to, multiply that by 10? It doesn't make sense. So we actually never pursued the degree or diploma because we just didn't think it makes sense.
Yeah. And that's a great segue. So Noah had a question. So games like this or sims like this, do you actually see this replacing schools or replacing schooling, or you think school is needed and this is like an add-on to kind of increase your education?
Yeah, there's no clear answer. It kind of depends on the circumstance. So one of the things I've learned in my 25 years dealing with students and instructors is a lot of people need guidance, right? They need that
Mhm.
coaching, they need that human person who's the teacher, the facilitator, and so on. So it is possible for a simulation to give you all the skills you need. In fact, that's why we launched our massively multiplayer world called Go Venture World at goventureworld.com. It's free to play because I wanted to be able to give the gift of entrepreneurship to anybody in the world, whether they could afford it or not. And my feeling, the way I could scale that is actually creating a massively multiplayer game that anybody can join. And a lot of people have been doing that and learning from it. But there's a lot of people who need the more handholding, and that's why with our Business XP we actually offer live support. So it's even though it's self-directed online, you can kind of do it as you want. We're still there to offer you that live support. And then on the university and college side, there's a lot of students that still want that social experience that college offers, right? In fact, to me, that's the most value of college. It's not the academics. The academics are substandard, right? It's that social experience. It's that commitment to finishing something after a bit of time. It's a maturity that you're getting from that experience. So universities are here to stay. And of course, there's two types of degrees and diplomas. There's degrees and diplomas that require a certain type of accreditation for you even to get a job. So like my background is engineering. I couldn't say I'm an engineer if I didn't have an engineering degree, right? Doctors, nurses, lawyers. So you're never going to get away from university for those. But for something like business education, which is what we teach, you don't need a degree diploma to get any job. In fact, a lot of states now, several states, the governors have announced that any job that is available in the state, unless it's one of these, specific jobs like a degree, like lawyers and so on, you're not going to require degrees and diplomas anymore. And I think that's what we're going to keep. That trend is going to continue. So I think you will see universities lose certain programs to providers like us, who we think we can provide it faster, better, less expensively. But there's also going to be a component that's going to be too difficult for external providers to provide.
Yeah,
I talk to schools about that concept. It's I don't see it as either or. I see it as really top of funnel, right? If you can offer it for something close to free and you partner with the school, then the school can offer it as lead gen, right? Get someone in and get them excited about business, about marketing, et cetera, and then say, hey, now that you finished this experience that didn't really cost you that much money and that much time, if you'd like to get a full minor or certificate program or move on to a degree, now you at least have validated that you have the interest. All right. My brother went through, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me sharing this. He went through his biology program, degree program, for 3 years before he decided he wanted to be a computer scientist. And then he basically had to start over. All right. And I think I bounced around to 2 minors, 2 or 3 minors. So I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination I'm better than him or whatever. But if you have the opportunity to learn whether or not you do or don't want to do something early and quickly, then to your point, Mathew, and as you talk about all the time, Mario, it's about saving your time because time is money. So I could see definitely offering something at cost or very affordable, very, very modestly priced to increase the number of people who are being educated. And then some of them naturally will go on to get advanced degrees, but others hopefully can just finish a program in 90 days and start getting a return on the investment of that time and or money.
Marcus, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, we have this unrealistic expectation that we expect a 19-year-old kid to know what they want to do with their life, right? My daughter just graduated high school, literally just a couple of weeks ago, and she was thinking about whether she goes to college or not. Thank you. And the one thing I told her is, look, I don't care if you go to college or not, but you can't go to college to figure out what you want to do. It's way too expensive.
Yeah.
It's not the right way to do it. Like if you want to travel or go work or whatever, just figure it out somewhere else. Not college is not the right place, right? Because we just have this 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-olds don't know what they want to do with their lives, right? How do we expect young people? So you're right, Marcus. It's that giving people those experiences, those life experiences, so they can decide, oh no, this is not for me. This is not for me. Well, this one might be. Let me try something there and see if it makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I definitely agree. I kind of sit on the other side. So actually, my alma mater, Tennessee State University, actually on the foundation board. So we actually help manage the endowment. So definitely, if individuals, what we see is that from a donor standpoint of giving back to university, individuals who had a positive college experience, right? If they graduated, if they got their first job and they're making money, they tend to give more to the university compared to individuals that had a bad experience. They graduated, but maybe didn't get the job that they wanted, right? Or had one major and now they're in a career that they really don't want, right? And they're not as happy about their actual experience. So I think a training or a game like this that kind of allows you to quickly decide what you really want to do and kind of pivot while you're in college helps your college experience better. You have a better college experience. Hopefully, you can donate more to university, but then also from a career standpoint, make money and really enjoy whatever career that you pick. So yeah, so
Sense.
it's, it's,
Makes
it's
sense.
that's cool stuff. So your daughter graduated, so she's not burning through your pockets with college yet, I guess, huh?
Oh, and she is now in September.
All right.
September. She wants to move away and live in the big city. So it's yeah, it's we're actually we're going tomorrow, flying out in a few hours, very early morning to check out the city and check out our university and see where that takes us.
Okay. So, side question, because I know, you published an article about coding and kind of the misguidedness of coding. Where do you see coding going forward? I know when you wrote the article years ago, it wasn't this wonderful thing we have now called Chat GPT that basically helps people just, you think of something and it kind of does it for you. So, where do you see coding and software engineering the next 3 and 5 years?
Yeah, so the article you're mentioning, it was at a time where I saw a lot of nonprofit money, foundation money going into trying to put coding in school for everybody.
Mm,
And my background's code. I started coding on VIC 20s and Commodore 64s when I was 12 years old. Did my
mm,
first game back then. So I grew up as a coder and started my company as a coder. Now I have other people that do that. So I'm more of a designer now than a coder. But
yeah.
I totally get the value of coding because it's been my career. But where I felt it was misguided is that coding is a very specific skill that very few people have. Like this idea of sitting in front of a computer for hours on end, solving problems. It takes a very special person to do that, and most people are not ready for that. So I didn't feel like that's the right approach. I felt a better approach, if you want students to experience everything, is what I call product commercialization. It's sort of like entrepreneurship, but introduce people to every aspect of developing a product or service and let them discover for themselves what is of interest to them, right? You might like writing, you might like sales, you might like photography, you might like video, you might like coding. And that way you're opening the world up because we're all involved in products in one way. Even if you work for a nonprofit, you're providing a product or service, right? So you're
Correct.
exposing students to the entire breadth of careers rather than this very narrow coding thing, which if you expose them wrong, even those who actually have the aptitude for coding might be turned off and never come back, right?
Mm,
So that's why I didn't like about it. I thought it was misguided.
okay.
Um, and in terms of where things are going, a lot of people are predicting that it's going to be a massive loss of jobs in coding because of AI. I think it's partially true. It's hard to predict. Obviously,
Right.
there's going to be coders writing AI, so there's a need there, right? But I think
Yeah.
what's going to happen is you're going to see mediocre coders lose
Mm,
their jobs, right? So if you're a good coder or even a mediocre coder who knows how to use AI to be a more efficient coder, then you're going to win that. So, something that took two people is now going to take 1.5 people. So that half
mm,
person is going to lose their job probably, right? So I do see, a reduction in the future of coders. And if you're starting a coding career now or in the middle of it, my advice is no, figure out how to use AI to be more efficient because you using AI is going to beat somebody else up who is not using AI.
Now, from the game that you created, do you have like the AI takeover in there, or that wasn't that's not in the game?
So when you design games like ours, they're actually driven by AI.
Okay.
It's rules-based AI. It's not neural net AI, but it's actually really the whole economic engines that drive our systems are all AI based. Again, rules-based AI. It's a little simpler than neural net concepts. We're actually just starting our R&D internally in our company, like literally
Oh,
this coming week on applying the modern language-based AI into our simulations and looking at ideas. Like, for example, a simple idea we're going to do is probably do like a daily roundup of what happened, like a sports commentator would do at the end of a day, what happened in sports. And we're going to feed AI a bunch of data from what happened in our simulation and then the AI is going to write an editorial and maybe even convert it to a video of a sportscaster that's telling you what happened in the game, right? So
Wow.
we're looking at kind of ways of creating engagement like that. And we're also going to look at ways of enhancing assessment, because we think assessment is really the big the secret sauce of simulation, where we can actually assess somebody's skills, not only give you skills, but actually assess and credential your skills in a way that couldn't do before. And I think AI can help with that.
Yeah, now AI is a huge driver, and I see it. I think Marcus probably sees that with my practice with my assistants that I have. Like, we use AI on a daily basis. We do videos about what stock was the best stock, what stock was the worst stock. With that information, and us kind of engineering what to say, we plug that into AI, and it kind of creates something for us. And then it's also software out there that actually kind of creates the information and then puts it into videos with pictures. And so I think AI has done a great way to give us more content, allows individuals to make more content at an inexpensive price, which gives a lot more information to the masses. Now, sometimes it can be information overload.
Right.
Sometimes too much information can be a bad thing, but I think AI has done a great job of educating individuals, if used properly. John had an excellent question, and we talk about AI, and we say AI can be taken over employees because, of course, more AI, maybe sad thing that jobs might go away. But actually, in the game, what can you do from a behavior standpoint with your employees, right? Because that's one thing that we can't quantitate. We don't really know how an employee is going to act. So, what are some things in the game that you create that helps us own with employee relations?
Right. So when you get to the more advanced simulation, we've modeled the behavior of employees using algorithms. Right. So you look at an
Okay.
employee. What are the variables of an employee? Right. So they've got a certain foundation of skill in a particular business. They might have a certain level of education. They might have ability to learn. Right. Their attitude, common sense, motivation, reliability. So we have algorithms for all of those things. So when it's time for you to
Mm.
hire someone, we show you a list of job applicants, like dozens of job applicants that all have different profiles and different salary expectations too, right? So if you want to hire the employee that has demonstrated skills and experience in the area you want to hire and is more productive, they might cost more.
Mm.
Or sometimes somebody, has that expectation that they're worth more when they really aren't compared to the market. So you'll see somebody that's maybe overpriced. And if you're doing your homework and looking carefully, you're going to say, oh, Mario has really great experience and he's worth his value. Marcus, I'm sorry, Marcus, but you're you're overpriced here. So I don't think I'm gonna wait till you move your skills up a little bit, right? So that actually happens in the simulation. And then when you hire them, you can monitor the reliability. You can schedule them to work at different times. You can monitor the reliability. You can monitor their customer service levels, productivity, and we have the ability to train them as well. So you can invest in training them. Well, what happens when you invest in training them is their productivity drops because now they're spending time learning on the job, right? So you can't work as much, but their skills in the areas you're training them go up. So your expectation, hope is that you will train them quickly and that they'll stay with you, because the other thing that happens is turnover, right? If you're not treating your employees well, for example, if an employee wants to work full time and you're only giving them part-time hours, they might quit, right?
Mm.
More likely to quit, or vice versa if you're overworking them. So all of that is actually built into the simulation with our algorithms.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We have another question from Timo, and these questions are amazing, you guys. Thank you for the questions. Bring them on. Bring them on. So Timo asks, "What tips would you give yourself if you could travel back in time, back to the future? If you could travel back in time to when you first started creating gamified education, what tips would you give yourself then that would have helped you excel now?"
Well, I would say don't do education. So, I don't know if I would have listened, because there's a lot of reward that comes with educating people and introducing people to entrepreneurship and affecting, a lot of lives. So that's good. But financially, it's a grind because the education industry has moved so slow. It's crazy. Back when I first launched our first simulation, started in late 90s, launched in 2000, and I was going in pitching schools. I couldn't use the word game to describe my product because they throw me out. Game in school? What? Can't have fun in school. Get out of here. Right. So we would say experiential learning and simulation-based learning and, just not use that word. Nowadays, I think people are more warm to it. There's still people who, haven't seen the right educational games to buy into it. But it's gotten easier. But I think I would have applied my skill if I was just thinking financially. I
Okay.
think I would have applied my skill on forecasting in the investment business, forecasting, creating forecasting simulations on investing and so on, because that was my background in school, is pattern recognition and coding to identify patterns and that kind of stuff. And I think that would have translated really well. Although I think I would have hated my life on Wall Street or something like that. I don't have that mentality of the, too soft for. I'm too soft for that. I have a heart.
Yeah, have a soul. And so let's talk about that, because I have my own investment. I actually have my own ETF on the stock market. The Bob team, check us out. The symbol is LETB. It's actually one of the first AI powered ETFs ever, or index funds ever in the stock market. It's fully automated, fully through AI powered. But from a tracking standpoint, how important is it to kind of track patterns of the market before a person invests? I know you're more on the education side, but you do have that background. So kind of explain to people why it's so important to really look at past performance. We know past performance doesn't guarantee future results, but how important is it to kind of track the patterns of a market or a stock before you actually invest in that investment?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so in our personal finance and investing simulation, what I did was I actually researched the markets over a 30-year period to look for those patterns so I could build them into the simulation, so that, when interest rates go up, stocks generally go down, bond prices go up, and vice versa. So you kind of look at those patterns that kind of repeat themselves. And so I think it's very important. I think you guys were talking on another podcast about, how gamers approach investing. And why gamers make good investors is because if you're a hardcore gamer, you're looking at the data, right? You're looking at those patterns, and they are very, very important. And then the other thing you have to look at is, are you investing in an index fund, a collection of investments, which tends to be a little less risky but better performance over time, versus individual stocks, right? When you're investing in individual stocks, it's like buying a lottery ticket. Doesn't matter how secure the business is. I remember I invested in Palm Pilot. You guys remember Palm Pilot? It was the first PDAs,
Yeah.
right? They were the industry leader. This was the future, right? It was just before the iPhone and so on, and they went to zero,
Yeah.
right? At the same time, I was working at IBM, and IBM was directly competing with Microsoft and Apple, and Apple was in trouble. Apple was on the verge of bankruptcy, and we were competing with Apple and Microsoft. And Bill Gates stepped in and saved Apple with $150 million investment. And old school people would remember this. So Apple was about going bankrupt. Microsoft, their hated competitor, stepped in, invested $150 million, saved Apple, and then Apple, became what they did, right? But no one was thinking about investing in Apple back then. Instead, I was investing in Palm Pilot. But that's the risk of not looking at patterns, or even if you're just doing individual investments, it's like a lottery ticket, right? You don't know what's going to happen. But if you're doing funds like you're talking about, now you're starting to get a little bit safer.
That's interesting, because we look at Apple. Apple is a $3 trillion company now, right? And so back then, it's always that crystal ball. We never had that crystal ball when we need it, right?
That's right.
And to take it a step further, you kind of be in the industry. Intel was the gold standard for so long when it comes to chips, and now it's like this small company that nobody heard of called Nvidia that is just rocking and rolling. They make all the chips now for us gamers. Anybody who games, you guys are using Nvidia, and it's just interesting. To your point, we don't know which stock is going to be good. We don't know which stock is going to be bad. That's why it's important to diversify your portfolio, or having an index fund or a managed fund that kind of helps you through the process. So yeah. John actually he said Blu-ray versus HD ended up not mattering at all. They were placeholders until streaming was ready. I would have warned Circuit City and Blockbuster about that time machine. Circuit City. You remember the days of Circuit City? Wow,
I've
that's
been there. And
yeah.
before that, there was
Two more
VHS and
Blockbusters
Beta.
left?
What was that?
What,
Yeah,
two more Blockbusters?
I think it might have closed. I think it might have finally closed. I could be wrong about that, but I thought I read that recently that it might have closed. But in that time was VHS and Beta. I don't know if you remember.
Right, Betamax.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Beta was so much better in quality and everything, but didn't matter. VHS, won the day. There's so many examples like that.
Yeah, and that's a great segue to your game. So, like, do you have things put in place? Because Blockbuster, they actually had the chance to buy a company unknown called Netflix.
Right.
They did it, and
Right.
we know the rest, right? So, like, is it in the game where you're able to have mergers and acquisitions? You're able to, to buy out the competition to scale more. Is that in the game as well?
In one of our simulations called Go Venture CEO, where students are competing head to head against each other in the same marketplace, we do have a feature called mergers and acquisitions, like you're describing, where the instructor can have students decide they want to merge. And what the system does is it merges their financials together. And then now you're competing on the merged financials. So you're still running your businesses independently, but now you're making strategic decisions, right? So Marcus and I are still running our businesses ourselves. We're saying, hey, Marcus, let's go after this market. You go after here. And that way our combined financials will be better. So we do have that opportunity in one of our simulations.
Have you ever had anyone from the esports ecosystem come to you and say, can you help us with training our CEOs? I think, a lot of people who are tuning in here are part of the gaming and esports ecosystem, recognizing the last 6 to 8 months have been rough. I think we're probably looking at another 6, probably 12 months at least, maybe 18 months of it still being kind of rough seas, even almost echoing what we saw with the console gaming market in the US 40 years ago. The crash, 97% before the rebirth, right? Obviously, console gaming in the US is doing well now, but I think that there is something to be said for a lack of business fundamentals in some CEOs, because a lot of the CEOs that we have now were former competitive players who had to either drop out of high school or drop out of college, because like the prime time of being a competitive player means you have to choose either competing competitively or getting a degree. And now we have poor business decisions from a lack of formal education. So has anyone discussed that with you? Because I think that would be a value add globally.
Yeah, I haven't had anybody approach me on it, but you're right. It would be a good opportunity, and hopefully our Business XP kind of provides that training. So you don't have time to go to business school or do an MBA or whatever. Do this accelerated training that's totally simulation and game based, and you can learn it really fast and hopefully get those skills. Even just playing that lemonade stand for 10 minutes. We were talking about pricing, inventory management, product quality, consumer matching consumer demographics and psychographics, profitability, gross profit margin, spoilage. Like we did all that literally in 10 minutes. Imagine any other learning experience where you pick up a book. What are you going to get through in a book or a field trip or a speaking engagement or video, right? And in that kind of experience. So yeah, I think that opportunity does exist. We have had, earlier we were talking about recruiting and so on. We have had schools and businesses who've used our simulations to recruit employees or recruit students, right? So for example, a university in Australia was having high schools compete in a business simulation competition so they could promote their business school, right? So if you finish high school, you would go to their business school. We had a company in Malaysia that was competing for talent, so they hosted a business simulation competition. Procter & Gamble actually did it in the UK as well, hosted a business simulation competition to track talent away from other employers who were also trying to track that same talent.
Wow. And they did this through business. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting. Marcus, can you put the game in chat? Bradford, question. He would love to learn more. Can we put the game in chat again? And Mathew said it's a way for individuals to do the individual courses as well. We talked about the school side, but
Yes.
but can we put that in chat as well? So individuals definitely subscribe and get into the game.
And that was goventurecourses.com. I think you're breaking up a little bit on me, Mario, but I think it was goventurecourses.com that they may be looking for.
Okay.
And I just sent that in the chat. So hopefully whoever asked that question can see that it's www.goventurecourses.com. Is that correct, Matthew?
That's it. Yep. Thank you.
Excellent. We're rolling up here on an hour, and we know that you have somewhere to be very early in the morning. So we appreciate so much your generosity with your time, all the insights you shared, this excellent conversation, demoing the platform, which was a joy for everyone, I'm sure. But is there any parting knowledge that you'd like to share with the viewers? This is going to go out to Spotify and all the podcast platforms later. So anybody who just wants to learn more, what are your final thoughts you'd like to share?
At the end of the day, it's, we're all are built based on the experiences of our lives. So just try to get as many experiences as you can. If you're interested in business, try our global business game. It's free to play. GoVentureWorld.com or whatever it is you want to try. Just try things. That's my big message to anybody. Is if you want to know what's going to make you happy in life, you got to try some things. Legal things, safe things, of course. Because that's really the only way you're going to discover what, the life that you will really want to live.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that. Can you let everybody know where they can find you? Again, just kind of shameless plug for your website. Obviously, we're on LinkedIn streaming now, so I would recommend everyone follow you on LinkedIn and Mario as well. Because just
LinkedIn would be you can find me on LinkedIn. My website is Georghiou.com, which is my last name, but LinkedIn is a perfect place to reach me. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Then Mario, can you help everybody understand how to learn more about Tomes Financial? You've got the book, you've got the app. Just let everybody, again, we're going to close this out here in a few minutes.
Yeah. Nah, amazing. Nah, definitely. We're on LinkedIn. You can definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel, Painful Profits. We like to make profits. Sometimes it's painful when the market goes down, but Painful Profits. So my last name, Payne, Payneful Profits. That's our YouTube page, our social media. You can definitely check us out. I know we put the link, to our website, TomesFinancial.com. Definitely schedule some time to chit chat with me, see how I can help. Our investment app in the Google Store and the Apple Store, as we talk about Apple, is Let Bob, so LETBOB. And then, of course, we have our own index fund on the stock market. That symbol is LETB, so Let B. Last year, the market tanked. Our index fund didn't tank, though. And this year, we're doing a pretty cool job as well. So you can definitely check that out or, look us up on the website, get in contact. We'd love to help if I can.
Hey, numbers don't lie. So thank you both for your time. Again, if you're just joining us or you want to get this information, you see at the bottom of this screen, bit.ly/level up your wealth will take you to the gaming landing page where you can get a no-cost consultation with Mario. Also, 2 excellent ebooks. Highly recommend that. You will see us again next Wednesday. We won't be on Thursday next week. We'll be back next Wednesday to continue this podcast and share more financial literacy and gaming with you all. So thanks for your time and have a great evening.
Yes.